Welcome to LFN News, a production of LFN Media, bringing you the latest in celebrity news, with specific analysis to keep you in the know of what is going on around you. Anyone who has been following R. Kelly's trials closely knows so well that 2023 is indeed R. Kelly's year of freedom. We've mentioned it before and signs are already visibly evident. The latest being the dropping of all charges against him in the Cook County case, that were fueled by Kim Foxx's call for accusations against the RnB King way back in 2019. Although this comes as a breath of good news for R. Kelly's camp, the worst is not yet behind us as we await first, the sentence from the Chicago trial that found R. Kelly guilty on less than half of the charges against him in his indictment, and second, the progress of the pending appeals, both the New York one and the largely anticipated Chicago one. In fact, Cook County State Attorney Kim Foxx stressed that she felt justice was allegedly already served from the verdicts in the two state trials of New York and Chicago, boasting that the evidence they had gathered actually played a big role in both trials. This is a narrative she has carefully crafted for over a month now, since it first became clear for her and her team that they stood no chance at prosecuting R. Kelly further, especially given that fact that these county allegations, like the rest of his state charges, actually lacked any form of evidence, but also long gone past the statute of limitations, and they were not about to make another attempt at evoking the Mann Act, which they fear has now been so greatly compromised and will most likely not hold during the impending appeal. She basically went on to allege that they were dropping the charges because they thought proceeding with them would be a misuse of resources. Really? Since when has the government been conscious of the resources spent in trial? Why then would they have had to go ahead with the Chicago state trial after they had bagged a 30-year sentence in New York? Even the mere sound of it is ridiculously hilarious.
Tomorrow morning, counsel for Mr. Robert Kelly is scheduled to appear in court over the indictments that we brought forth nearly 4 years ago, charging him with 10 counts of aggravated criminal sexual abuse involving 4 victims. I'm here to inform you that the Cook County State's Attorney's Office will no longer be pursuing these indictments. Back in 2019, I stood in this very room and asked for anyone who was a victim or witness to crimes allegedly perpetrated by Mr. Kelly to come forward. Since that time, Mr. Kelly was convicted in 2021 of 9 counts of racketeering predicated on criminal conduct, including the sexual exploitation of children, forced labor, and violations involving the coercion and transportation of women and girls in interstate commerce to engage in illegal sexual activity by a federal grand jury in Brooklyn, New York. That court sentenced Mr. Kelly to 30 years in prison on June 29, 2022. As you all are aware, here in Illinois, the Illinois Federal Court in September of 2022, the jury found Mr. Kelly guilty on 3 counts of child pornography and 3 counts of child enticement. Sentencing has not yet been rendered in that case. However, Mr. Kelly faces a minimum of 10 to 90 years in prison in the Illinois Federal Court. I want to reiterate our office's support of the investigations that led to the charges and convictions, both in the Eastern District of New York and the Northern District of Illinois. It is to that end that due to the extensive sentences that these convictions hold, our office has decided not to continue to expend our limited resources in court time with the indictments that we previously charged Mr. Kelly.
Well, if you have been following this channel's features in the past few months, then you know that we saw this coming, probably even earlier than Lady Fox herself. The drop was simply inevitable. Well, what is visibly clear is the fact that moving on with the charges would present a rather complex risk of double jeopardy, given that some of the alleged victims in the indictments have actually testified in the concluded state trials of New York and Chicago. Yet another justification of acquittal is the fact that being lighter charges, the Cook County charges were unlikely to earn Kelly a heavier sentence than in the 2 state charges, and would allegedly be regarded as a deliberate waste of public resources, moving forward with the trial. The Cook County charges stem from allegations of abuse of 3 minors traced to as far back as 1998, as well as the 2003 alleged assault of a hairstylist who was 24 at the time. Among the alleged victims is Jane, who was the center of R. Kelly's 2002 charges which Kelly beat at trial in 2008, and the Chicago federal case that just concluded last month. Another victim in the Cook County case that never was is Geronda Pace, who was one of the victims who testified in Kelly's New York case. These alleged victims must be devastated at the news, well knowing their hopes at earning some restitution monies had been single-handedly thrown out the window, especially for those that have had a taste of R. Kelly's monies before. Little do they know that this could easily have been the best decision in their favor in their lifetimes. Although in her speech, Foxx tried to bring her knowledge of her alleged victims' frustrations out, she must have had a hard time convincing these ladies that dropping the charges was the closest thing to a win they could ever have, saving them from the embarrassment they would have to suffer from losing to R. Kelly's lead defense attorney, Jennifer Bonjean. Of course, to some, Bonjean is just another defense lawyer. But for those who know her legacy and poise, it is very easy to know when a fateful loss to her is imminent. It should be noted that prosecution was confident they had a shot at these charges despite all the circumstances, until they learned they were not actually fighting against attorney Steve Greenberg, who formerly represented R. Kelly in a Brooklyn criminal prosecution that ended with a decades-long sentence, but after the queen of technicalities herself, Jennifer Bonjean. It's only after this realization that they started contemplating on dropping the case as it became more apparent that their winning chances were slimmer than ever. It's hilarious how Kim chooses to categorically make a mention of her own assault allegations that she brought to light, probably to relate better with the alleged victims and successfully coax them into moving along with the government's well-crafted narrative of R. Kelly's allegations. And she sure did get through to the girls if you asked me. Having two of them testify in the New York and Chicago state trials against the king of R&B. Come to think of it, Kim's statement was actually carefully scripted, and she was equally cautious of her posture all through the speech, actually acting emotional in some of the most sensitive bits of the statement.
I want to first and foremost thank the survivors that came forward and shared their stories. I know firsthand how difficult it is for you to tell your stories. 4 years ago, I stood at this podium and shared my story of having been a survivor and my full understanding of what it means to have to go before strangers to discuss what is arguably one of the most horrific experiences one could have.
In her rather lengthy statement for a drop of charges, Kim goes on to brag about how their office was still critical at providing allegedly valuable evidence for the other two state trials, as if to insinuate their office was critical in getting R. Kelly behind bars. But let's face it, we all know for sure there was no real evidence to this regard. Even the tape they so brag about is highly contestable in the appeal to come, so she should just get off her high horse and concede to a technical defeat like she has never had to face before. Her citing of resources being the main reason for the drop is just as ironic as her other reasons, as we know for sure that they must have actually spent quite a good sum to get these girls to accept a quiet drop, without letting the government skeletons out of the closet. But who truly cares? That has actually been the government's playbook for years. Not so long ago, we learned that Kim Foxx is an abuser herself who has not once, not twice, but severally harassed her husband, with one unfortunate encounter even leading to a 911 call. But of course, she has continually used her position and power to downplay all these allegations, and resultantly truncate all police inquiries into these issues. It is rather disturbing therefore to see the same Foxx almost tearing up while playing the victim card in her speech. All issues aside, the drop was surely a breath of fresh air in the R. Kelly fans' camp and a sign that the government is cognizant of the fact that R. Kelly's defense team is not one to ride over anymore. Of course, the team itself made its own name in the Chicago trial, but such decisions from the openly stubborn Kim Foxx, that has previously sworn she would not let her alleged victims down, is a clear sign that the team has a huge chance at sending R. Kelly home free this year. That's all we had for you today. Please let us know in the comment section below how you feel of the Cook County prosecution dropping all charges against R. Kelly. We value your honest opinion. Thank you for watching LFN News, a production of LFN Media. giving you another view of issues at hand.